Hi, welcome everybody. This is Erica Villanueva and I will be presenting my last DLE culminating interview and project for our class. Congratulations, we all made it. The first thing that I found really impactful was the Woodbourne School District longitudinal case study that Collier and Thomas used as kind of a baseline for their research and the longitudinal study that they did in the dual language education for a transformed world. What I found most impactful for this and what they assert toward the end of their book is that regardless of the district or the area in which they are going to assist or that they go consult about DLE, they find that these results are kind of like across the board. So it's obvious that the research correlates with what we should be doing as far as dual language education goes. And as you can see, it says grades 3 through 7 cohort. So these were people and parents that did have a commitment, and then they also talk about how they did a 2-year cohort as well. So we see the gaps closing between the English learners and the ELLs that were not considered ELLs. And you can see that in each group, the amount of gap closures between their levels get smaller and smaller because they're disaggregated student groups. They have nothing to do with each other. So compared to the native speakers, these are non-native speakers. They do speak a different language. So I thought that this was impactful, and I thought it was really great because it shows the power of DLE in just the basis that Collier and Thomas used to have that. So that was one model that I found very impactful, and I wanted to go over that with you guys. I know you've seen it as well, but I just thought it was really impressive when I was reading the text to prepare for this project that they said regardless of where they go, they can go, this was done in Oregon, they can come to Texas and they'll see the same data. They can go to Wyoming and they'll see the same data. The fact of the matter is that the cognitive processes have nothing to do with socioeconomic status in this case, little bit to do with the parental involvement. What matters is the data, the processes that are created when these students are learning a partner language in correlation with their foundational language. We see changes. So it's very exciting as an ESL teacher and also as a upcoming curriculum specialist to see that we have data to back this up when we go to teachers and administrators. We also have the umbrella. The umbrella model is how we're going to see the additive models of bilingual schooling for English learners. So we have the two-way, where English learners and native English speakers are put in the same way, and where they're both learning the languages concurrently. This is a fairly standard one. We also have one-way dual language developmental and maintenance, early language learners and bilinguals of the same heritage as English language learners. We also have the one-way. These would be solely indigenous students. As you can see at the bottom, it says 2 language groups schooled through their 2 languages. So this is going to be our 50-50 models. This is going to be our 80-20, our 90-10. And then the 1 language group schooled throughout their 2 languages. These might be children that they're really just trying to get them to learn the L2, but they're not necessarily pushing up the L1 a lot. It's that one-way model. So we're not getting that second language in, okay? And then also we have the power of the PRISM model. According to Collier and Thomas, there are 4 standards that any DLE program requires. And so we have the PRISM model. So if we go back to that, you can see that you have to have a socio-cultural component as in any classroom. There needs to be emotional development for students, and they need to feel safe. That's from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's just foundational coursework for us. We know that if a student is hungry, if a student doesn't feel safe, if you feel threatened in any way when you walk into a room, you're not going to learn. The process is that part of your brain shuts down and you go to fight or flight. So it's very important in any setting, in any level of DLE, in any classroom, regardless of anything that you're teaching, that is honored, that you really take into account Maslow's. You greet at the door, you make sure students feel welcome, you allow frequent opportunities for interaction with their peers. So there's miles on the tongue, which is which is what Dr. Kinsella says. She's the only scholar quoted in the New Texas Text, and she says that there needs to be miles on the tongue, but you need to give safe opportunities for that. So the effective filter needs to be very low in our students so that they feel comfortable having those linguistic exchanges with one another and also with us. Also, you need the linguistic component, of course. If the L1 is ignored, the achievement gap will grow. We cannot expect a child to be literate in English and then completely ignore the fact that there's some gaps in their L1. And I think this is funny. This is what I've heard as a dual language teacher or as an ESL teacher. You should speak to them. There's actual teachers that will say, I tell them I don't speak Spanish. And I disagree with that because data tells us differently. You need to honor the L1 if you want L2 acquisition to happen. If you want them to understand L2 components, the partner language components, sometimes you're going to need to clarify that in their L1. Also, the cognitive connected to first language development. Again, if the L1 is not being nurtured, there's not going to be any cognitive. They cannot do any higher order thinking if they don't understand it in their first primary language. Also, we have the academic development, which is a key component. We want to know that these global learners, they are able to be creative. They have great problem-solving strategies. They are divergent thinkers, which is what we need. We need original thinkers. These are things that the FBI looks for, that the CIA looks for, that people in higher orders of our society, we need these thinkers. So it's very important, and these are such important programs. As I went into the interviews and as I was going into this program, I know we're going to have teachers that we're going to have to work with. And because we're going to have to do that, we need to really solidify this data to them and give it to those logistical thinkers so they fully understand the importance of our programs. They are inherent for us. So the following interviews, I interviewed 3 teachers instead of 1 just because I want a more well-rounded idea. And I interviewed from the perspective of a teacher to a teacher because I am a parent of dual language education students. My sons have been learning Chinese, Spanish, and English since kindergarten. So I'm passionate about these programs. So you'll see that the following teachers are actually teachers that they've had. I asked them all the same types of questions. What does it take to develop and sustain a strong dual language model? How long have you been teaching? What brought you into the field? And what model of DLE does your program follow? I also asked them to identify some challenges they see because I feel like if we're going to go in and we're going to be teachers of teachers, we need to understand the models instead of just going and getting preachy with them. We need to know what we need to encourage the admin to provide these programs so that they can be successful and so that these teachers can take what we teach them and really apply it to their classroom. The people that I chose were Miss Alicia Moody. She is classified as a Lotte teacher for Mandarin Chinese, and she teaches the K through 6 program at the school where my sons attend. She says that the school where they attend shows an 80-20 model. So that means that the partner language is split up into 2 sections between Spanish and Mandarin. From that age, Mandarin moves up as a spiral. So they're taught very foundational skills, and then as they move up to the middle school, they're eventually taught handwriting. They're taught tongue positions because there are certain sounds that the Spanish and English language do not have that Chinese does. So she teaches them, and she's a fantastic educator, and she's very innovative. And I asked her if she wanted to go into leadership, and she said no, but I wish she would because we really could use someone with a great understanding of a very good DLE model. I also have Miss Moir. She has been teaching for 10 years. She's a fantastic teacher. She does such a great job with the kids, very structured, very prepared all the time. And she's also a parent of biliterate students. So her kiddos actually went through that program, and she's a big proponent for the program as well. And then lastly, we have Miss Pereira, 10 years as an educator, and she's also a graduate of a DLE program. She graduated from Del Valle High School. So I thought that she was really great because she's a product of the positivity of programs like this, and she's an amazing teacher, and the kids really learn with her, and she does so much with them. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that she knows what it's like to have to learn like that and have to think like that. So again, she's a divergent thinker. She gets creative, she knows what to do, she problem solves, and I've actually had the pleasure of being in her class. takeaways. These are one of my students from my ESOL English 2 class. And you can see I just want to show off my students, my kiddos. Global citizens are not something that are born, they are created. And I think we kind of get the naysayers that say the programs aren't effective because they want to look at data and they want to look at standardized testing. But in the long term, these students are world changers and they are world citizens. They can offer more. They can go between the two realms of languages and they understand cultures. So I always encourage my ESL students, my ESOL students, I always tell them, you don't understand. Yes, you have to work harder. Yes, you have to do a little bit more, but you don't understand the payoff in that. You don't understand that you are the hardest working group of students, and because of that you're going to be some of the hardest working, most successful adults because you learned early what it is to struggle and problem solve and get through things. So thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to be in this class with you. I hope that you all got something from this presentation. I've really enjoyed seeing your presentations. Have a wonderful holiday season. Bless all of you and good luck to you in your future endeavors.